call. If we're good to do that.
Yes.
All right. Chair, I'm here. Vice Chair Ned. He's here. Alder Randy is excused, it sounds like. Corey from Parks.
Present.
And John.
Present.
And Julia.
Present.
And Cody.
Hello, I'm here.
And Mark.
Present.
All right. Then
Okay.
we're good.
We are on to the next item. Go ahead, Chair.
Cool. Approval of the agenda for today's meeting, October 21st. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
And then watch this. So who makes the motion?
I'll make the motion, Mark.
Got
Okay.
Mark making the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Corey. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Okay.
Or give a thumbs down.
There's no,
All right, I think that's approved.
we move on to the next item. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Cool. Approval of the minutes from last month's meeting on September 16th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Add motion.
All right, we got John raising his hand
John.
to make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ned. All those in favor of approving said minutes, say aye or raise your hand. Do a thumbs up. Cool. All those opposed, say nay.
I vote. Oh, okay. So what happens,
All right.
wait, hold on 1 second, Seth. So what happens is, you know, either when you call for that, when you open up that vote, right, you can actually click start vote. But this civic sustainability is almost always a voice vote.
Okay.
So, but like sometimes in the council chambers, they demand that that they actually press their button to vote. So that's what they have in their board view.
Okay.
They can actually, but in order for them to see the thing to vote, you would have to press start vote.
Okay.
But I don't, because it's always voice vote
Sure,
in,
sure.
in sustainability.
Okay.
So, okay. Thank you for your indulgence, everybody. All right, next is informational. Go ahead, Chair.
Oh yeah, informational. All right, introductions of committee members and our new resiliency coordinator, Melissa Schmitz. Melissa, do you want to start out and introduce yourself? We're really excited to have you here.
Sure. I will start. I've been talking nonstop almost the entire day, so I don't know how lengthy I'm going to be. And I met Seth last week, so he's already heard the spiel. But my name is Melissa Schmitz. I'm from Green Bay, been in Green Bay for about 20-ish years, like maybe 20 years, 22 years. And my background, education-wise, is in environmental science and biology. I went to St. Norbert College. And I started my career in water resources management, first at UW-Milwaukee and then for the United Tribe. And that was about 12 years. And then after that, I decided I wanted to take my environmental career in a slightly different direction. And I went into energy management. And I worked for WPPI Energy. It's a municipally owned electric utility. And I did anything and everything, but primarily focused on commercial and industrial energy management in Northeast Wisconsin. With the municipalities of Sturgeon Bay, Algoma, Two Rivers, and New Holstein. And after I left WPPI, I went to work for the Focus on Energy program. So that's what I've been doing for about the last 4 years. Again, with commercial and industrial customers, but I've worked heavily with schools and government as well when I worked for WPPI. So I really sort of got a very well-rounded energy management background when I worked directly for the utility. And yeah, so my employment ended in August due to the fabulous pandemic. And then I started looking for work, and I'm very, very happy to be here. So I don't know if you all want to take a turn, and then if you have any follow-up questions, and I know I've met some of you already. Ned, I think you're a teacher at Aldo, right? And my kids, both of them went through Aldo Leopold School, probably before you got there, or maybe there was a little bit of overlap. I have teenagers. And Cody and I actually go way back. When I worked for WPBI, I was stationed in Sturgeon Bay and Algoma, and the company that Cody was working for at the time handled the wastewater treatment for those communities. So Cody and I met at a wastewater treatment facility. And then when I went to focus on energy, one of my assignments was working with grocery store chains on energy efficiency. So then we met again. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
And here we are again.
That's right.
I think all the greatest relationships start at a wastewater treatment facility.
Yeah,
So that's good to hear.
You think you have to wash your hands a lot now? You work in a wastewater treatment facility, it's like constant.
Cool. Yeah. So the folks.
And I may have met John. John, I know that I've crossed paths with you at the university. I have other connections at the university as well. And I don't know if you coached baseball at any point in time in your life. I might be thinking of a different professor, but.
Yeah, I think, I know what you're thinking of.
Okay.
She's thinking of Caters.
Okay.
Yes.
Thinking of John Caters.
Yeah.
So anyway, why don't you guys go introduce yourselves? Tell me about yourself. I'm just gonna pick. Okay, let's go with the person I know the least, and I think that's Corey.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Corey Mim. So I'm the park planner with the Parks Department, which basically means I'm in the design and development division. Those types of projects go through my department, which is really, or division, I should say, which is really consists of myself and Emma Brown, who's a civil engineer. So it's really the two of us who work towards those goals, as well as, you know, a lot of other folks.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been with the city now for about 4 years, in October, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, I have a big interest in sustainability, you know, within the parks and getting people connected to nature, that type of thing. And so very happy to have forward to working with you more in the future.
Okay. All right. I don't think I'm seeing everybody on the screen. I talked to Mark the other day for work, so not that I don't want to hear.
So I always do speaker view.
Oh,
But
now I
then
can see everyone. Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
Paula and Julia.
So Julia was on the interview team. So
Oh,
that's all I know about you is that you interviewed me, and I know you work for Wisconsin Sea Grant.
Yep. Hi, Melissa. So excited to have you. Yeah, so I work for Sea Grant. I'm a water quality and coastal resilience specialist. And I know pretty much like the whole natural resource management, ecosystem restoration, water quality folks in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple projects. And then I also related to hopefully the work that you'll be doing. We're starting up a really big project about with the East River and flood resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I've been over the last year and a half trying to slowly put pieces together to help with a green infrastructure planning with the city.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd say, John, why don't you go next?
Sure. Of course, again, great to meet you. My role at, I am the director of the Environmental Management and Business Institute.
Can you adjust the volume a little bit? Can you turn your volume up?
That's a good question. Let me see.
That sounds better.
Sounds a
John.
little bit better, yeah.
I think it was the
Oh.
microphone
It was your
placement.
mic.
All right, maybe that's it. I hope this is better. So I'm the director of the Environmental Management and Business Institute at UVA Green Bay. And I'm also now the director of the Office of sustainability at Unity Green. So
Okay.
my main focus is sustainability. To that end, we work with partners in the community trying to improve their sustainability. Certificate of sustainability.
Time out for a minute. Time out.
Yeah.
Is there any way you can adjust your volume? No, sadly. Well, let's see.
John, I think you need to lean forward too.
You're kind of going in and out, John.
I'll tell you.
Your microphone, I think.
Does this anymore?
Yes,
No.
yes.
Maybe.
You cut out.
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. It depends on where your mic is located.
Annoying these people. There's some-
Yeah, that's.
Little closer.
I'll try to. Hopefully this helps a little bit more. I don't know. We'll. I can hear great on my end. It's just
Okay.
communicating maybe is difficulty. So our focus is on sustainability at the university. That's my area of focus. And I have had several students go through our certificate program that have gone on to some energy management positions.
Mm-hmm.
A couple that have worked for Focus on energy and Franklin Energy. So maybe you've run into some of them along the way as well.
Well, my one of my first hires when I worked for Franklin was Erica Aquino, and she was a master's student of yours, I think.
Doesn't ring a bell, but
It took a long time though. I think she was trying to wrap up her the program a little bit, but other than that, I'm not really sure. Bill Loebner, was he with you?
Bill was one of my students, and
So yeah, so Bill and I worked on the same team, and then I became his manager for a while then too. So I know Bill
Okay.
really well.
okay, so
Okay.
we've helped, like I said, other community organizations. I've had students, and Bill is one of those that have gone through and worked for Aurora Baycare Hospital, working on their energy team.
Mhm.
So that's just one of the things that we do.
Okay. Ned,
Hi.
hi.
I think you're going to be a lot more fun than Celestine. Will you let her know that?
She's right.
I'm Ned, do teach at Aldo, and I love it there. It's my 6th year teaching there. I've been teaching for 18 years, I guess, and I've been working on a lot of, I guess, environmental projects around the town. I do have a degree in environmental studies and a master's in environmental education from Stevens Point. And I work on a project called the Pollinator Corridor. That's something that we've been doing for about 10 years now, I guess.
Okay.
Corey has been an awesome advocate for that within the park department. A lot of community members that have been involved in planting. And we need to start getting rid of some of the plants. We have too many now. But that's one of the things I like to do. Energy, been working on energy with the school district and city, and helping with set up a county sustainability group. So those are kind of my two big wheelhouse areas, I suppose.
And what grades are you teaching?
I teach 1st and 2nd grade.
Okay.
So yeah, if your kids were there older,
Yeah.
I probably didn't have them.
So I mean, if you've been there for 6 years, there was definitely some overlap, but they would have been, my oldest would have been in middle school probably when you started.
Sure.
And then, and William is a senior at East. So there would have
Okay.
been some time.
Yeah. But we're excited that you're part of the team. Thank you for joining us and for being here today.
Okay. So, I mean, I've talked with Mark, I've talked with Seth, Cody, anything new in your life? You don't have your mustache anymore. The last time I saw you, it was like,
Yeah, no more mustache. So unfortunately, I do miss it.
was it comfortable with the face masks or what?
It was not. I also waxed it, so it like poked into the mask, and then after taking it off, I'd have to like retwist it, and it was difficult.
Sounds
But
like a lot of
enjoyed
work.
it.
Sounds like a lot of work. Okay.
Didn't you notice though that he's the only one without a mustache and beard? So, I mean, the rest of us wear them, you know,
Yeah.
but nobody in Green Bay knows what I look like without a mustache and beard. So it's, you know, it's been 36 years with the beard.
I do not have a mustache or beard.
That's true.
Mark,
Of the men on the
okay,
conference
that's
call,
better.
other than Cody.
That's better.
Anyway, Celestine, I haven't seen you in person. Who knows what kind of, you know,
Ah, there you go. A lot of things have changed during COVID.
Yeah, no. That's hilarious.
Okay, so what's next on the agenda?
Oh, yes, let me do this.
I think we have to go to a
Yes,
different
okay.
module.
Then what we do is, and so like I said, oh my God, look at my hair. Jesus. Okay, so next, let me just go back to civic clerk. So we did the introductions. There's no action because that was just really informational. And so you just go on to the next item, which is updates from committee members. And then, sorry. So then you just click set current. Okay, so next we have updates from committee members. Go.
Do you have any updates from committee members? I do not. Ned.
Sure. This is it touches on what we talked about last month and what we'll get to. I forget if it's next month or in December, but we discussed the car charging port at the possibility of returning to that idea. I happened to have a conversation with Jesse from Eland over the last month about the project that we're working on at Aldo. And then we kind of drifted into the city stuff as well. And just based on his feedback, and I know this is not an action item tonight, it's just I want to share some information. I think it would take a whole lot of work to pursue being able to put in that car charging port and also tie it to the app that, you know, people pay for. So I don't think it's something we can just shoot out as a commission and say, get this done. It would be quite a bit of work, possibly on Melissa's end or one or two of us working with Melissa and then bringing it back to the committee at some point. But I just wanted to share that with you, that it's really, you know, now that solar array is in there, to go back in and retrofit it would take a lot more work. So it's not kind of like a lickety split kind of thing to do. So you know, when we discuss this again as an action item, I'll share that again. But yeah, it would take a lot of work. So that's the one bit of information that I wanted to share this month.
Ned, when you say it's going to take a lot of work, does that also include a lot of funding, or is that part of the work that you're referencing?
Well, it would cost money to put it in, absolutely. So that would either have to come out of the money that's allocated for the fire stations, which I guess is another topic that I still don't know where things are at, where the ends are kind of loose right now. I don't know if the fire department has ever okayed the plan for solar panels to go on to the fire stations. I don't know if Celestine has an update for us on that.
So unfortunately, Ned, that isn't on the agenda.
Okay, well, it's information though, you know.
Not really. But absolutely, we could talk about it at our November meeting. And
Okay.
Melissa and I can be prepared to talk about that.
Yeah, that would be great. And you know, if that money becomes available from the fire department, then I guess that could go to the car charging station. But yeah, that would involve some additional funds to put that up. So yes.
Cool. Any other updates from folks or questions or comments to that topic? Mark, you have something?
Yeah, and the conversation I had with Melissa, she knows a little bit more about than the rest of the committee. Something that just came up October 15th, the Natural Resource Defense Council came out with a grant program to provide technical assistance to mid-sized cities in the Great Lakes state region of the U.S. for food waste. And Melissa and I talked at length about this, and there's a lot there. It closes at the end of November in terms of the application going in, and it would require a city county cooperative venture, and we'd have to have some support from the mayor and from the county executive, and there's a lot of other details that are there, but it's a potential program. It might be a little bit too early for Green Bay itself, but nonetheless, it's something that could address one of the issues in waste that we see, food waste being a major issue in the waste industry, that there's a lot of food waste nationally. And our program, our drop-off program that Brown County was running, has closed as of last month because Sanimax, who was our collector, has gotten out of the business of collecting food waste, so they're not feeding Oshkosh's digester, and they're into there. The reason it would be a city-county initiative is because a mid-sized city or urban area, in their criteria, is 200,000 or more. And since the city isn't 200,000, but the county is, at least it would be something of interest. So I'm pulling together a bunch more information. I'll get it to Melissa, to the city, talk to my county in terms of whether this is even something we can move forward with. But it looks like it might be a recurring program in the future as well. And then it would offer something that might kickstart a food waste collection or program of some kind. And Melissa, just so you know, I checked with City of Madison actually has a citywide drop-off program for food waste. So they're not doing curbside collection. They are providing
Locations for food scrap drops.
Yep. Yeah, so they're providing locations for food scrap drop-off as opposed to doing curbside collection, which is a curbside collection is a major undertaking. You know, you're adding another whole
and I
collection system.
I don't know if I can say this, but I did pass that information along
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
Madison as an example program.
Yep. Yeah, and you had sent me an email with some questions from Matt Hagen-Leibel, and I'm still pulling together some of the data that's there. Coincidentally, the state is in the middle of a waste characterization study where we're actually well, they try to do it every 5 years, but it's been 10 years. They actually do a waste characterization, an analysis of 15 to 20 landfills throughout the state, where they actually, a consultant goes out and digs through the landfill in a certain manner, and then analyzes the waste that they get out of a column of the landfill, and they create a characterization of that landfill waste, and then they aggregate it for the state as a whole. And that's where we get a lot of our data about what's going into landfills. And the percentage of food waste going into landfills in the state of Wisconsin hasn't varied. In from 2003 to 2009, it was 17% was food waste in the landfill. So we know that's and that is 17% is the biggest single chunk, largest percentage of any single material group in landfills. So you know, we know it's something we have to deal with in the long run, and it's an organic waste that has some value. So, and there's a whole bunch of stuff related to this. So, but anyway, just something that future discussion point, and potentially an action somewhere down the line.
Are you hopeful that maybe a grant might come together? Proposal might come together?
That's kind of a city program. To a certain extent, it falls, the county can't really lead it as such. The city has to be the main applicant, and the time frame in which they're looking at for you to set up the program just may not work, because some of what the application is looking for is some already existing commitment to this type of program. And you know, other than the county's drop-off food waste program, there really wasn't anything in our area of you know, any systematic programs out there. So it may be that it's something that now we look at this, and then the next go around we actually have something that's more viable and would work. You know, and Melissa just started. They have a very short window on this, and there's a lot of information they want right up front, and a certain amount of commitment right off the bat. So, and then the total grant award is $9,000, and then technical assistance. So it's not like they're paying for infrastructure; they're paying for they're providing technical assistance on putting together a program more than anything else. You know, and you have to have a pretty robust set of information and process in place, I think, to get it done. But it's one of a number of emerging programs nationwide. There might be another grant program coming out in the near future that might be a better overall program for something like this. The Recycling Partnership has some program monies as well. They provide some fairly large grants to communities around the country, and that might be something that we can look at and pursue in the future.
And Julia, just to kind of, for a little bit more information, the Great Lake, this part of the Food Matters Great Lakes Initiative program, they're looking for 4 to 6 cities in the Great Lakes region. I think it's the 5 states, right, Mark, that they're looking at. So, I mean, it's not a sure thing necessarily that Green Bay would even be selected if we had all the ducks in the row to be able to put the application in. It's and it, like Mark said, it's not necessarily a grant program to fund big projects. It's really to, like, for travel, to go to conferences and things like that, and to develop. I don't know. I just feel like we need to be a little bit further along. That was my takeaway after I read all of the materials.
Right. And Madison, I believe, was a recipient of this grant program in the past. Yeah, it's Green Bay is right on the cusp of being eligible, even for an eligible community. But, you know, what it does is it provides us with a framework and some ideas about actually looking at a broader program. You know, truthfully, the NRDC's grant is not really all that significant, again, because of the dollar amounts we're talking about for what they're doing. You know, Brown County spent more than that on our drop-off program over the course of just a couple of years. So it's not really, and that was just for a dumpster and collection. So, you know, that's not like a whole lot of money, but it does give us a framework to look at and a model to start looking at for something that could be pretty high impact and fairly low cost, especially, like I say, if you use the model that Madison's using, which is a system of drop-off sites throughout the community. There are other complications for us. We don't have a good, viable end, for lack of a better term, end market. And Cody, I don't know if it affected Festival, if you guys working with Sanimax too on food collection. I know UWGB was, but John has a little bullet digester of sorts for his food waste. But yeah, I don't know if Sanimax was working with you guys.
My wife's cooking. Can you hear that?
Oh, nice.
That's perfect.
That's very nice.
I'll respond to that because Okay, got it. So a little bit, we had been working with Sanimax. I actually just rolled out a new program with a new company that just moved into the market and kind of took over what Sanimax was doing. So I don't know if you're familiar with this company at all, but they're called Organics. So it's with an X, so instead of CS. I think they're based out of Illinois, like Northern Illinois, Chicago area, but they just recently expanded into Wisconsin, and they have basically the whole like lower half of the state. And so, you know, with Sanimax getting out of that market, it provided that market for them to get into it. Yeah. And then we just rolled out a program company-wide with them. So I don't know if they have any kind of relationship with the UW Oshkosh Biodigester, but that's something I can ask them.
Do you have contact info you can send me?
Yeah,
okay.
I actually just started. That's what, when you were just talking just now, I started an email I was going to write to my account rep over there just to see if that's something that's even a possibility.
Get that.
I can copy you on the email. How's that sound?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So, anything else? Any other updates from committee members?
Yeah, I have a fun project that I'd like to share.
Awesome.
So this year, the Parks Department is celebrating 100 years of serving the community. And I don't know if I've shared this with you already, but in honor of that, we're going to be planting 100 trees at Dan's Park. So it'll be on the east side of Dan's Avenue, and it's just adjacent to the Bear Creek Trail. Tree planting started today, and we're hoping we can finish by the end of the week as far as with the planting. We're also going to be having an asphalt trail going through the middle of the planting that's planned to at some point meet up with other paths within the park. But then there's also going to be within kind of the center of the planting a couple custom benches that we're having an artist make for us. And so it's going to be a neat, I guess, celebration of our celebration of 100 years. And we'll probably have some kind of ribbon cutting mid-November when all of the work is completed. But I just wanted to mention it because if you're in the area and you noticed a change, or if you haven't been there, it probably will be worth a trip there at some point. Of course, the planting will probably look better over time because as the trees grow, it's just gonna be better and better. So just wanted to mention it, and hopefully you'll all get a chance to see it at some point. So yay, 100 years. Oh, and basically the whole project is being funded with community development block grant funding. So that was great to get them on board for such a cool amenity. So yeah, that's it.
So, can you hear me now or not?
Yes.
Okay. I played around in my computer. I just wanted to share that we finished putting all of the data in for our carbon footprint for the city of Green Bay, and everything that we were given as we've used and filled that in. So I think the next step is to work with the Clean Energy Work Group, and we will start pursuing moving down towards a climate action plan for the city. So that's where we're at.
Does that mean the Clean Energy Work Group should resume meeting next month? All right, we all got to take a nice little sabbatical. Thanks, John. Does anybody else have updates? And Melissa, we'll make sure you're invited to those Clean Energy meetings too. It'd be great to have you there. Other updates? Awesome. We'll move on to regular business.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. All right, this is Melissa. So, like I said, normally it would just be, it's easier to just shoot two screens. But, okay, so now the update. I just go on to the next item. And then regular business, you go on into the item, set current. Okay. Okay, so that set current corresponds to, it marks of the video. So I'm actually recording in Zoom right now. Okay. So you can tell I'm recording because see, I'm recording in Zoom. Okay. And actually, also got rev.com, so I'm also doing the closed captions. Evidently, this is a brand new thing. Right. So, okay, ready to talk about the update on the code audit. So, okay. So I have been bringing myself up to speed on the green infrastructure code audit, and we had a presentation last week by JB Hines, who is the consultant on for redrafting, rewriting, revising the codes. And in the agenda packet, there was just a high-level summary of those changes. And the good thing is that most of the areas of the code received A's and B's, okay? Which all that means is that those codes don't need a lot of heavy-handed updates at this point.
The one that did receive, I guess, the lowest grade, it was the landscaping code. And so with the development team last week, she went through the changes to the landscape code with our team. She didn't go through every single one of the code updates, but since that one had the most, that's what we went through. Because there were just some substantial barriers within the existing code for incorporating green infrastructure into the code. And so, you know, without going into a lot of specifics, because honestly, I don't have all the specifics memorized at this point of what was changed. The next step where that's at right now is those codes are being reviewed. The stormwater management codes being reviewed by Matt and Steve and myself. So that is in the works. And then the planning, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, the plan department.
But the planning department now has the landscaping code in hand and their team is looking at those. So it doesn't mean that what the consultant put on paper is set in stone. It's just that very, you know, high recommendations to follow what the consultant is recommending. And then their department will take a look at it and we'll go from there. But at the next, we're hoping after the election, then we'll have this will be drafted in a nice format, and then it will be going to a different committee for,
depends on which part of the ordinance it would go to a committee.
okay,
But first has to be reviewed and determined by staff.
right. So we're doing an internal review at this point. The initial, I guess, impressions that I got from the meeting were very positive. Very, very positive from the development team. So, was there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah.
I know the one that she felt like could really be pushed through is the noxious weed.
Oh yeah.
The noxious weed ordinance.
Corey knows I'm excited.
Yeah.
So I would say that when we discussed it at an internal staff meeting, the landscape standards that's where there's going to be a couple places are going to really make a lot of good change. Landscape standards, stormwater, that erosion control, adding one sentence, and then also the noxious weeds. So, you know, parking's good, zoning's good.
It did make a recommendation for a permit application.
Yes, that's right.
To include not just the dimensions of the building, but the dimensions of the impervious area.
Right.
That was not on what we have right now on the application.
That was Steve's idea. So, so right, next step for this is
I'm sorry, that was whose idea?
Steve.
Good.
So next step is for this, it already is going, I think, to development team, the landscape standards. Then we have to probably not until after the election, bring the noxious weeds and the erosion control back to development team. And then once it gets the internal staff sort of changes and imprimatur, then it can go to committees. However, there is the issue of actually updating our code and what legal work would need to be done in order to do that. So that is something that Melissa is still, with my assistant, still figuring out.
Right. There is money within the grant,
Correct.
to have outside legal help. Just I think, and the reason is why, because
Because
we're strapped for resources right now.
Correct. The law department is strapped and we want to get this done. So that's a possibility. I'm not really sure how that's going to play out. Melissa's already been in touch with the Fund for Lake Michigan. But there are a few other things that we have to put in place. So I feel like I've been saying that for 2 years. But we discussed it internally. These are really good recommendations. I don't think a lot of this is going to be a heavy lift. JB had some excellent conversation with Corey and with Steve and with Matt, with Paul Newmeyer and Kevin, but Kevin, of course, is left. And now the next step is internal review, seeing what we can do, to committee, seeing if we need to make some legal changes and get some outside help for that, and then adopt to council. So can't give you a timeline. I can only think about November 3rd, so I can't really give you a timeline. Poor Melissa got roped into that too. So that's where we are. I think we're making some good progress. Like Melissa said, conversation was very good.
It was very positive, and you know, being a brand new person with no preconceived opinions or, you know, thoughts on anyone, I thought the meeting was very positive and there was really great feedback. So I'm optimistic that this won't take too much longer, but what do I know? I just started.
Right? Good luck with that.
Yeah. So that's all I have for the update on the Green Infrastructure Code. Does anyone have any questions? Ned?
Thank you. I was just curious what the changes, Seth knows this, but the natural landscape ordinance was something I worked on. That was one of my babies when I was on council. So what would happen to the noxious weed part of that, or what is going to be changed within that one?
Maybe Corey.
Otherwise, I can pull it up on my computer and go through it.
It's not ready for public discussion, the details of it.
Okay, did you hear that, Ned? The
I-
details aren't ready for public discussion.
Okay.
But maybe Corey has some, Melissa, maybe Corey has some things that she can offer. Since she worked on it with Vivi.
Okay,
I don't know if you heard.
Corey, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did, and I apologize because it's been quite some time since I've actually looked at it. So my recollection mainly had to do with, there were like a couple of errors we found where like, you know, the botanical name that was listed for the common name was incorrect, that type of thing. I think too, maybe kind of better defining some of the terminology that was being used was suggested. Just to kind of make it a little more, even more clear of what we would be looking for, you know, for certain situations. Boy, other than that, that's all that's immediately coming to mind. And without actually having a document in front of me, it would be hard for me to elaborate more than that. I'm sorry, but I can't recall.
No,
I
So
think
in that, I have a question. When I read it, and I did have some questions. So Corey, now I know who I can come and talk to about it. But for noxious weeds, did they make a determination between noxious weed and invasive species, plant species? Because I didn't see any mention of Phragmites or anything like that along the waterways that might still be within the city's limits. And that was one thing, again, being new, I don't know if that's even an appropriate question for this code.
I definitely think it's appropriate because really the city code can define what we consider to be a noxious weed. And so I believe it's like the DNR is referenced part of their codes or something that defines exactly which weeds or what we consider noxious weeds. I can't recall off the top of my head if we added anything in addition to those. Ned saying yes. But we could consider, if we wanted to right now, adding things like Phragmites.
It's already on there because all the things that the DNR lists would be like, that would include Phragmites or Eurasian buckthorn. And
I
I think
remember it spelling out, calling out buckthorn.
Yeah.
But I did not see Phragmites called out, and that's why I was asking about that.
Yeah,
Well,
I know. You're right. It is very kind of like, ooh, some of them are in there and some of them are not. So I think that makes sense to clear that up.
But Ned, I did do some looking into that because I was curious about the Phragmites too. And when I referenced the code, I don't think it included Phragmites in what's in the city code that's referencing the DNR code. So I think there's different sections of the DNR that we could maybe pull into the city if we wanted to, that's missing off of there, if that's the direction the city wants to go. But I don't, when I looked at what the code references with the DNR, and the Phragmites wasn't covered in there. So if that's something the city wanted to do, I think now would probably be the time to do that. That being said, you know, it's quite a big problem, and, and there's a lot of city land with a lot of Phragmites, so I don't know I mean, honestly, yes, would it be wonderful for the city to rid it off of all of city property? Yes. Would it be a gigantic task? Yes. You know, so I think there's sort of that balance as well that's probably going to be considered by city staff. Just want to throw that out there. Yeah, definitely now's the time to address those kind of things. I guess the other thing that I didn't catch in JB's draft that she had sent either, and something we've talked about as a commission, is the no mow May. And, you know, right now the ordinance, I think actually the suggestion was to lower the height even from what it is right now, for how tall grass can be before you get fined for not mowing. And I know there's been discussion about the no mow May and perhaps changing the ordinance or whatever to allow for that. But I didn't see it in the round of editing that I saw. So I guess I was just curious if that was maybe still on the table, and if that's something, you know, this group is still interested in pursuing, then perhaps some influence from this group might help push that along. So I just wanted to mention that too.
I'm sorry, can you clarify that to include something in ordinance about no mow May or something about the grass height? I'm a little confused what you're.
Yeah, sorry. So the ordinance, I believe it currently states your turf grass is not allowed to grow taller than 9 inches, without consequences. And so if we wanted to allow for a no mow May type of situation, that could be problematic if we're saying, no, you don't have to grow or cut your grass through May or June or something, but it could grow above that height. So then that would be a conflict between those two policies, ordinances, however that works. I don't know if the city of Appleton, if they ever got it passed through, if that's part of their ordinance now, or if it's more of a policy, or I'm not certain how that all works. But I guess since it had been discussed, I think now if it needed to be addressed in the ordinance, then now might be the time to do that. And maybe the ordinance states from May to, certain months you can let it grow or something along those lines. So
I guess I don't know. I just like the no mow May thing was like really, that was a new thing to me when it happened, and it just happened to be like spring, right, when we were talking about it. So I just like, I guess I think it'd be okay to maybe let people do it, but it's not like requiring people, right, to do it. No.
Yeah,
It would just be allowed. It would basically be allow people to have their grass longer than 9 inches in May. And
correct.
Why? That just sounds too complicated, like to put into code.
And it may be.
Like why? Like that sounds like a thing in 100 years from now. It's gonna be like, why would you focus on that? I mean, to me, I don't know. Unless the city's gonna really goes around and enforce. I guess it's the enforcement thing of a messy lawn in the spring or an overgrown lawn. And honestly, not cutting your lawn is actually really bad for water. I mean, your grass, like healthy grass, if you want it to
be
soak
better
up
for the
more water.
pollinators, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main mission with the no mow is to allow, for plants to grow so pollinators can access them, early in the spring when there's not a whole lot for them. And
yeah, I know, I get that, and I watched what happened in my yard, and no dandelions and clover. Dandelions were still everywhere, even when I had to mow, because if you don't mow, then you're gonna have a really hard time later not mowing. I mean, I was like, this is crazy to even, and there's dandelions, a gazillion dandelions as soon as an hour later after I mowed.
Maybe it would, maybe it would be
that's
like more of
a personal thing, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know. That just sounds like whatever. I mean, not something that is like a giant priority to focus on.
Yeah, I don't think it's giant, and you can. They say, to take only 1/3 of the leaf blade off at a time. So if people know the right methods for removing the grass, and yeah, it's not easy, and we definitely wouldn't want to require anybody to do it. But I think it could be worth considering to allow people to do that. So whether or not it's in the code, I don't know if that makes sense either. So
I mean, I guess my question is, how often right now is it like, how do we have a problem with people's overgrown lawns in general?
I don't know how problematic that is. I think it goes through the inspections department, but I believe probably it's only problematic if your neighbor doesn't like looking at it and they call. I don't know that the city is necessarily out.
Unfortunately, I would say that it's not, I wouldn't say it's a widespread problem, but if you have, you know, a situation where you have people who are not taking care of the property, unfortunately, those tall weeds, and sometimes it isn't grass, sometimes it's weeds. Like Corey is familiar with my Japanese knotweed problem, my neighbor's problem. So, and then what ends up happening, unfortunately, is that the tall grass also sometimes attracts vermin. So this is an issue we have with a company actually that owns a very large piece of land on the west side. So, you know, I think just in terms of regular people going about their normal day, not a big deal. But then you've got some of these problem properties where it really does, it makes a difference.
Yeah, but then you add a month in there where it's okay.
Right.
That's just like complicated to me. To whether to enforce or to even have people understand.
Yeah, I definitely think educational component along with that message would be important if that were something the city was wanting to promote.
I think we talked a lot in spring about kind of the spirit of no mow May making sense, but really the best bang for our buck would be more of native landscaping. There's not a whole lot of good growth in Green Bay for, you know, lawn pollinators. I just want to make a suggestion as far as looking, adding that DNR list that we were talking about. They do have what's called an invasive species list. So that might be what should be referenced then.
It would be.
And yeah, because that one definitely has Phragmites on it. I think that one has kind of the most updated stuff. So just as a suggestion.
Wonderful. Any other discussion about this item, or is there a relevant motion to just do we receive and place on file, or other thoughts?
So, I mean, you could receive and place on file this one. What do you receive? So receive and place on file. I mean, or you could, you know, I mean, the problem is that it's, you know, Seth, this is kind of a progress. You might want to, you know, many ways, receive and place on file a little bit kills it, which is not what you really want to do. You just want to.
What if we hold it till next month?
Pick it up. Yeah, that's what I would suggest, holding it until November. Or, yeah.
November. All right. Is there a motion to hold this until the November meeting?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mark with the motion. Do we have a second? Second with John. All right. All those in favor of holding this until November, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right. That is held. All right, and that brings us to adjournment. Have a good night, everybody.
Well, you got to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
By Ned, second by Mark. All those in favor react with this. Just kidding, say aye.
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 Right.
All those opposed, speak now. All right. We're adjourned now. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Good
Thank you.
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Celestine, I
You
I
all
still
know how to
think
get
I'm
hold
just
of me,
joking.
right? Okay.
We know where you live.
And I'm helping out with the election stuff too. So I'm not 100% focused. I'm 100% focused, but not 100% like, 8 hours a day right now on the resiliency. Today I was doing a lot of voting stuff. So
Do we get to have you anymore, or was this it?
what do you mean?
Like, are you still going to be here next month, Celestine?
Oh, you're talking to her.
Sorry, Celestine. Yeah. Are you going to be with us anymore after today, or?
Oh, yeah.
You are. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. There's a few things to get off the ground and to help. I'm not going to leave Melissa in the lurch. So I know. All right.
All
I'm
right.
going to step